Ever found yourself pondering over the difference between active and passive voice? Well, you're not alone. It's a common confusion, especially among those of us who are delving into the depths of English grammar, be it for academic purposes or otherwise. Now, you might be wondering, why is it so crucial to understand these concepts? Here's why. The choice between active and passive voice can dramatically change the tone, clarity, and impact of your writing. It can be the difference between a sentence that leaps off the page and one that merely sits there. It's like the difference between a monochrome picture and a vibrant, colorful one. So, whether you're a student trying to ace your English paper, a budding writer aiming to captivate your audience, or just someone looking to improve your communication skills, this topic is for you. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into the world of grammar, specifically the active and passive voice. So what exactly is active voice? Let's start from the basics. Active voice, you see, is a way of structuring a sentence where the subject of the sentence performs the action. It's a subject-action-object formula. The subject is the one doing the action, and the object is what the action is done to. Let's take a simple sentence for instance. John ate an apple. In this sentence, John is the subject, ate is the action, and an apple is the object. John, our subject, is performing the action, which is eating. The apple, our object, is what the action is done to. This is a clear example of active voice. Active voice is direct, it's straightforward, and it's easy to understand. It's like a straight road, no twists or turns, just a clear path from the subject through the action to the object. Now, what's so special about active voice? It brings life to a sentence. It makes your sentence dynamic, energetic, and engaging. It's like watching a movie where the main character is right in the action, doing things, making things happen. That's what active voice does to your sentence. It puts the subject in the driver's seat, leading the action rather than just being a passive observer. Active voice is also more concise. It typically uses fewer words than passive voice, which can make your writing more clear and precise. It's like packing a punch, delivering the message directly, without any unnecessary fluff. But don't get me wrong, active voice isn't always the best choice. There are times when passive voice is more appropriate, but we'll get into that in the next scene. For now, let's stick with active voice. Practice it. Try to identify it in the things you read. Write sentences in active voice. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. And before you know it, you'll be using active voice like a pro. So, remember, in active voice, the subject performs the action. Now that you've got a grip on active voice, let's flip the script and talk about passive voice. So, what exactly is passive voice? Well, passive voice is a way of conveying action in which the subject of the sentence is acted upon by the verb. It's like the subject is receiving the action rather than doing it. It's a bit like being a spectator at a sporting event. You're there, you're involved, but you're not the one kicking the ball. Let's take a simple example. The apple was eaten by John. In this sentence, the apple, the object, is receiving the action of being eaten. John, the subject, is the one doing the action, but he's mentioned at the end of the sentence. It's a bit like the apple is the star of the show and John is just a supporting actor. This can be a bit confusing because it's the complete opposite of the active voice. Remember how, in active voice, the subject does the action? Well, in passive voice, the subject is acted upon. It's like the roles have been reversed. But that's not all. One of the key characteristics of passive voice is the object-action-subject order. In our apple example, the object, the apple, comes first, then the action, was eaten, and finally the subject, John. It's a bit like reading a sentence backwards. Of course, this isn't the only way to construct a passive voice sentence. There are many variations, but the key point to remember is this. In passive voice, the subject is acted upon, rather than doing the action. So, to sum it all up, passive voice is a way of conveying action where the subject is acted upon by the verb. It's characterized by an object-action-subject order, and it's the complete opposite of active voice. In passive voice, the subject is acted upon. It's the complete opposite of active voice. You might be wondering, when should you use active voice or passive voice? Well, the answer to that isn't as black and white as you might think. Let's start with the active voice. The active voice is generally preferred in most forms of writing. It's clear, it's direct, and it places the emphasis on the subject of the sentence. So, if you're writing a novel, an article, or a business report, the active voice is usually your best bet. It keeps your writing lively and engaging, which is exactly what you want when you're trying to keep your reader's attention. But what about the passive voice? Surely it can't be all bad, right? Absolutely. The passive voice has its uses too. It's particularly useful when the doer of the action is unknown or unimportant. For example, if you're writing a scientific report where the focus is on the process or results, rather than who performed the experiment, the passive voice might be more appropriate. Similarly, in a news report you might use the passive voice to highlight the action or event, rather than the person who caused it. For instance, "The bank was robbed" puts the emphasis on the event, not the perpetrator. The passive voice can also be handy in formal or diplomatic writing, where it can be used to avoid assigning blame or responsibility. Saying "mistakes were made" sounds a lot less accusatory than "you made a mistake." So, as you can see, both active and passive voices have their place in English writing. It's all about understanding the context and choosing the voice that best suits your purpose and audience. Remember, the active voice is all about clarity and directness, making your writing more engaging and lively. But don't discount the passive voice. It can add a layer of sophistication to your writing when used correctly, and it can be a useful tool in certain situations. So while active voice makes your writing clear and direct, don't discount passive voice just yet. Alright, let's recap what we've learned today. We've taken a deep dive into the world of grammar, exploring two key components that can significantly affect the tone and meaning of your sentences: active and passive voice. Active voice, as we've discussed, is the assertive, clear, and direct way of presenting your ideas. It's when the subject of the sentence performs the action. Remember our example? John ate the apple. John, our subject, is taking the action of eating. It's clear, concise, and leaves no room for confusion. On the flip side, we have the passive voice. This is when the subject of the sentence is acted upon by the verb. It's a bit more roundabout, but it has its place in our writing toolbox. Take our example, "The apple was eaten by John." The apple, our subject, is being acted upon. It's a subtle shift, but it can dramatically change the emphasis and tone of your sentence. Now, when do we use these voices? Active voice is your go-to for most writing. It's direct and engaging, making your reader feel involved in the action. But passive voice isn't to be dismissed. It's perfect for scientific writing in situations where you want to emphasize the object or result of an action over the actor. These two voices are not rivals but partners, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. The beauty of language is in knowing how to use these tools effectively to communicate your thoughts and ideas. It's not about right or wrong, but about what suits your message best. And that's a wrap on active and passive voice, folks. Remember, mastering these concepts will certainly add clarity and precision to your writing. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe to Open School for more such educational content. Stay curious and keep learning. Before we sign off, here's a quick task for you. Why not put what you've learned today into practice? Try coming up with your own sentences using both active and passive voice. It's a great way to solidify your understanding and get a feel for how these voices work in different contexts. Once you've crafted your sentences, head on down to the comments section and share them with us. We at Open School would love to see what you come up with. While you're at it, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Your likes let us know that we're on the right track. And don't forget to hit that share button to spread the knowledge around. If you haven't already, do subscribe to our channel, Open School, for more educational content like this. Can't wait to read your sentences in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.